Now, as a mobile bartender, we all love tips. Don't you just love it when your Venmo and your Cash App is just going crazy? It's an amazing feeling. Well, today we're going to talk about 5 ways on how you can increase your tips. So let's just jump right into it. The first one is you gotta nail the first impression. That's like core, right? You show up to an event, show up early, make sure everything is set up. Then I like to go through like my first impression checklist. Check your setup. Make sure that your coolers and your trash cans, all that eyesore stuff is hidden and behind the bar. Make sure that your bar top looks presentable and clean, right? You can put your bottles that you're serving on the bar so that people know what they're drinking and make all that stuff look good. The major thing though is to check yourself and or your bartenders. Are you wearing clothing that represents your business and how you want it to be represented? Make sure that everyone's energy is on point. There's no time and place for a Debbie Downer in this situation. Right now, you're at someone's private event and you want to make sure you're providing good energy. I understand that we all go through stuff and it's just throwing you off, but you got to try your best to leave that at the door and show up as your best self, because these people spent money for this service and they want the best experience for their guests. The biggest part to nailing your first impression is a smile. It is extremely powerful, the impact of a smile. I'm going to read something to you guys. Smiling is a powerful, contagious behavior that significantly influences social interactions and a person's well-being. Research highlights several key aspects of its impact. Studies indicate that individuals often mimic the facial expressions they observe, including smiles. Engaging in a smile can trigger the release of mood-enhancing neurotransmitters like dopamine, endorphins, serotonin. This not only elevates the individual's mood, but also fosters a positive atmosphere, encouraging others to reciprocate the smile. Huge. The influence on perception. This is big, guys. Smiling individuals are often perceived as more attractive, reliable, relaxed, and sincere. In summary, smiling not only benefits the individuals by enhancing mood and reducing stress, but also has a ripple effect, positively influencing those around them through its contagious nature and the favorable perception it elicits. Guys, I read a lot there. Just goes to show how powerful a smile can be in whatever you're doing, but especially if you're behind the bar, if people are approaching the bar, smile. That's a part of your first impression. I know some of you guys have RBF. If you don't know what that is, resting bitch face, right? It's just natural for you guys. For those of you that have it, you got to be more aware of this and you have to put in extra effort to put out that smile. Tip 2, this is kind of like foundational stuff. Make it easy for people to tip you. Don't make them do extra stuff. What does that mean? That means putting out, get your tip jar, put something funny saying on there like, let's get tipsy, feeling tipsy, whatever. Put out your, the stand that has all the QR codes, Venmo, Zelle, Cash App. Do not make it difficult for people to tip you. Guests hate it when you go up to them and like, oh, do you have Venmo? And I'm like, well, can you just send me Zelle instead? Like, no, make it frictionless for customers to give you their money. Okay. So that's the one thing. And here's a nice little tip on the side that we used to do. On the tip jar itself, what you can do is you can say, no tip, we'll take a review instead, and put a QR code of your Google review business page and let people give you a review instead of a tip. In my opinion, a review is worth way more than a couple of dollars or whatever. Put that QR code on there as well so that you can get your Google reviews up, which can make you look better from a Google search standpoint, and you can get booked. Let's go to step number 3, be personable, approachable, and engaging. This is different for everybody, right? This is all subjective stuff. It's really about just being yourself. You have your own ways of being personable and approachable and engaging. It ultimately comes down to just be a human being, right? That's just what it is. Yes, you're doing a job. You are bartending. You're at this private event, but don't just be a robot. It's a private event where you're at someone's house and you're around their family members. They want you to be a part of the crowd. And the better you can do that, as long as you take care of your business and you make sure you're there for work, don't overboard it and start drinking or whatever with them. As much as you can make them feel like your family or you're a part of it, the better, right? Because people want to deal with human beings. So that's huge. Here's a couple of tips that how I would show being personable, approachable, and engaging myself, what I would do. One interesting one is that as people will come up to the bar, I would thank them for coming to the bar. I'll say, "Hey, thanks for coming up to the bar." And in their minds, it was like kind of weird. It was kind of like, wait, why is he thanking me? Like he's about to serve me drinks that I'm not going to pay for. Like I should be thanking him. But it just kind of relaxes everybody at that point. It immediately shows them like, wow, he's a nice guy. He's thanking me for something I don't think I should be thanked for, and he's just a nice guy. So it just relaxes everybody versus like that awkward, like, am I going to deal with an asshole of a bartender or not, or whatever, like those kind of things. The smiling and that thinking was kind of big. The second thing that I would do is people would come up to the bar and I would guide them for their decisions of drinking. So we'd talk about stuff and this and that. I would help them out. But then I would ask open ended questions that made sense. The thought process of an open ended question is having that other person talk more. You want them to talk more because you still got to make the drink. And like, I can't multitask that well. Talking about a topic and making a drink can become somewhat difficult. So I ask open ended questions to get them talking. Hey, so what brings you here? Or how do you know Sarah? And they would go into it. And what's great is that as they're doing that, you're making your drink. As they kind of talk, you can get other open ended questions out of that. So like, oh yeah, so Sarah and I, we used to work with each other 5 years ago and just like stayed friends. Then I'd be like, oh, it's nice. That's super cool. Where'd you guys work at together? Like, oh, we both worked at Cheesecake Factory and blah, blah. Like now you can just keep going. Like, what? Which Cheesecake Factory? Which one were you guys at? Like all of these things. And now by the time you're like halfway through the conversation, you're done with their drink. That's a great way to approach and just connect with these people. Because at the end of the day, you want to connect with them and you want to close that gap of trust. That's what it really is. You want them to trust you in a short period of time. One thing that also really helped us, and we would just crush it, is remembering people's names. Now, I was not that great at it, but I was blessed to have CJ with me, which he was amazing at it. So CJ and I were like a 1-2 punch when we would bartend. Like I wouldn't even say we were the best bartenders out there. We were just such a vibe, and I've been knowing him all my life, so we have great chemistry. So imagine this: someone's coming up to the bar. I'm already thanking them. I'm smiling. They're like, oh, they're already in a good mood. And then I ask them an open-ended question. They pick a drink. I ask them an open-ended question. Now I'm making the drink. Now CJ's stepping in, and he's carrying the conversation while I'm making the drink. And they're just going back and forth. Boom, 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 boom. All that's going well. Make the drink. They have a really great interaction. Now, after, I don't know, a few minutes or whatnot, he comes back and CJ's like, hey, Tom, you want another old fashioned? And that alone just like opens up so much from that point when it comes to remembering somebody's name. If you can, whatever, there's a lot of practices out there in order to remember people's names. If you can figure it out, try to figure out, do your best at it. It's something I need to work better on as well myself. But in the event space, private event space situations, knowing their names is a big one. Let's jump to tip number 4. Number 4. This was a different one, and I think it can really make people stand out as a mobile bartending service. But the biggest thing is being knowledgeable about your products. That's number 4. Somebody's hiring you because they expect for you to be the master of your craft. Like you're the master of this thing, right? And you want to be the best you can be. You want to elevate your game every single opportunity you can. And the more talented and knowledgeable you are, the better chances that you're going to get better tips at the end of the day. One of those things is being knowledgeable about the products around you so that when you're making a cocktail, you're just coming off as a master of your craft in that situation. So like what I would do is when I would make a cocktail, while I'm making a cocktail, I'm talking through, depending on the conversation, right? If I ask that open-ended question and they're going on and on, then like, okay, I'll leave that alone. But if it's like, okay, he's kind of done and the conversation's more about the cocktail, then I'm going into what I'm actually making. And so if you guys know us at Happiest Hours, we're connected to a liquor license. So we provide all the alcohol for the events. And what we do is we have preferred brands that we bring to these events because we know they're going to work really well with the cocktails. And so what I would tell some of these people that are ordering a drink, I'm like, hey guys, with this passion fruit margarita, it's going to be great because we got Código, which is an additive free tequila, and it's from the lowlands of Jalisco, and it's going to have some like earthiness to it, which is going to balance out really well with all the mixers and the juices from the citrus and the sweetness of this passion fruit margarita. They're just like, oh man, could you imagine by the time I said all of that, their mouths are watering and the drink probably like in their heads, it's just going to taste really good by the time they get it in their hands. Now, let me put it in better terms from a tipping standpoint. We all know as mobile bartenders that we'll get these beer and wine events, right? It's just a proven fact. The average tip amount from a beer and wine event compared to like making cocktails is just lower. Now, there's different, like if there's a different type of event, this and that can all play a factor. But just across the board, it's just lower. Why is that? It's because people come up to the bar and they're like, I'm not going to tip you for doing something that I could do myself. Like making a cocktail, you're shaking stuff, you're doing all this stuff that like some people can't do. So they're like, it makes sense. So I'm going to give you a tip. But like to pour me a glass of wine, like why? So you have to ask yourself, how can I provide more value to the customer in this situation? And really, the only thing is knowledge. If you're behind the bar and you're talking about the type of wine that you have, and maybe you know the food that they're eating or the snacks that are coming around, you can talk to the chef if the chef is there and talk to them. Hey, what do you have? And if you can pair the wine with the food, like that is impressive. It's just impressive. Or I know that like you may not know what wines or beers that are going to be there, but just show up early, do a little bit of research. Okay, this is a Napa cab. That's all you need to know, right? And just do a little bit of research about the brand, maybe, but just talk about like, yeah, it's a Napa cab. It's about like a medium mouthfeel. The tannins are right there. You're going to taste it. So like all of this stuff really helps with adding value when it comes to being a master of your craft. So having knowledge of the product is big. All right, guys, the biggest tip out of them all, this is massive. The biggest tip out of them all to increase your tips at events is to not expect any. That's right. You heard me. Don't expect any tips. Go into the mindset that I'm here to provide a service and I genuinely want to be here and I'm excited. I can't tell you the amount of times that we would show up to events that our bartenders are working, and sometimes it's the last hour, and I can just tell. I know this person only has high energy, great character, all these things, but I can just tell that that's just a little notch less than normal because the tip jar is lower. And when I see these kind of things, I look at it as like an opportunity cost, like just a pure loss. Why? Because, okay, it's the last hour. You're noticing that there's not that many people there. How do you know that another person comes up and gets a drink or somebody shows up late to this event and this guy's a baller or whatever? And if you have good energy, you approach him well, you're smiling, you're doing all these things that you normally do, that he doesn't tip you 100 or 50 bucks or whatever it is right at that moment and completely changes and shifts the dynamic. You may have lost on that opportunity. Another thing is that who knows if somebody shows up that wants to book you because of your energy and your vibes, but because you're kind of like, your energy's not quite there, you may have lost out on that opportunity. So, guys, the biggest thing that I can say is don't expect it. People, one, can like smell fakeness from across the street, right? You need to show up as if you're genuinely there to make sure that they have a good time with $1,000 in tips or no tips. We all know that when it comes to these events, you're going to have really good nights. You're going to have nights where you don't get anything. You're going to have a lot of the stuff in between, right? So it's best to keep yourself consistent because that's what you can control, which will ultimately elevate your average tip amount. So there you have it. Those are the 5 tips. I also want to give out a bonus tip that's practical, that helped me out a lot when I was bartending. So, and you guys can go and implement this right away if you wanted to. So we've all been in those situations where we're bartending and it is just slammed. You got like 15 people in the line. You're the only one there. They told you there was 25 people showing up, but really 75 showed up. And you're just like, holy snaps, like, here we go. And these situations are stressful, right? Like you got the death stares coming from like the third person on back because all they want to do is just get their drink and get back to their conversations and having fun. But you're the one that's responsible for not letting them have fun, right? So these death stares are coming. Well, in these situations, I would essentially do three things. One, I'd pick up the pace, right? That's natural. I think you just got to know that you got to, work a little faster than normal and kind of be more smart with what you're doing. Instead of making one cocktail at a time, make three or four. You know which one's the most popular one that everyone's going for, or guide their decision towards it. Make four of them at a time so you can bang out a lot of cocktails, right? So move a little faster. Even the perception of moving faster is better than just like going at the same speed. Two, which was big, is that I would acknowledge the people that are giving me those death stares. Like, hey guys, super sorry. I'm gonna be right with you. I know it's a little bit of a wait, but I'm doing my thing here. The third thing that's super important is smile. Going back to that smile, I just read all of that stuff of the effects of smiling. That is so big, guys. In these moments, you smile, like laugh at my pain type of stuff, because this is what's gonna happen. That third, fourth person that's behind, that's been just like death staring you, waiting for their drink, is going to eventually get to the bar and they're going to have a switch. They're going to be all like, man, this guy, because you're working faster and all that stuff, perception, right? They will come up to me and they would be all like, man, you're over here busting your ass. There's a ton of people here. And you still got a smile on and you're just acting like you just enjoy this. This is crazy. And I'd be like, well, I do enjoy this. This kind of comes with the territory. Things get busy at times and whatever, but like we're going to get through it. I'm really having a good time. And what's going to happen? That person's going to tip you because now they feel compelled. They got to do it. They're like, man, this guy is working super hard to just give me a drink. That's the least I can do. Be aware of the situation. Hopefully remember this video that you're watching and like, oh yeah, Boozy Broker, smile. Let me smile and just watch what happens. Cool. I appreciate you guys watching all the way to the end. Subscribe. If there's any other tips that you would say that you can increase your tips, I would love to hear it. I didn't want to make this video too long. I got a few more I can probably say, but those are the core ones. But let me know. Would love to hear it. Subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. And we'll chat soon. Boozy Broker out.